there's this thing I read it was on gratitude, right? The practice of gratitude, just in general, like being grateful for the things that we do. And again, without trying to sound clinical, this article spoke to the importance of gratitude, like neurologically, like literally says the mind is not capable of being grateful and negative in the same moment. It's not
Yes.
capable of both, right?
Correct. Yeah.
And considering Trevor Moawad, who obviously the whole concept of neutral thinking is not living in negative or positive, I think when he's talking about positive, though, he's kind of talking about Pollyanna. Like everything's going to go, because that guy, as much as any, when he tells the stories about his dad, you can clearly tell they're in the belief, in the business of positive thinking, like limiting negative self-talk, all those kinds of things. The Russell Wilson stuff he shares in his book and all that other stuff is all about wiping out negativity. But in this one article I was reading, it talked about the power of gratitude. And I read this a few years ago, right? My headspace, not in a great space. And then you learn that gratitude actually starts to neurologically rewire, like, I'm going to say neurotransmitter. I feel like I shouldn't even be allowed to use a word like that. But anyway, in the article, it's literally how we transform our mind. And I think of it like, for me, I'm an analogies person. So it's like you walk up to most people and you say, hey, you want to have a positive attitude? Like turn that frown upside down. Even people that come off real negative, there aren't many people out there that are like, no, I like being negative. Like, this is fantastic. Like, most people, I've had people say to me, like, JB, I wish I could be as, upbeat or optimistic or positive. But then what I want to tell them is, like, in my natural state too, I get really down about things and it's easy to get negative and all of that. So I bring it back to this practice of gratitude. And the analogy typically I'd like to share is, there's a deal like in this room, we've got lights on all around us, right? So I say if a positive mindset is like turning lights on in a room, we all say, hey, if we're in a room and we need to find something, do we want to find it with the lights on or the lights off? We all say the lights on, right? So if lights on is the equivalent of being positive, this first step to getting the lights on is paying the electric bill. And I think that's what people don't realize. What I mean by that is I could say, hey, I'm going to go flip that switch on in the hope that I get light or positivity, right? That's all of us saying, I wish I was in a better mood today. That's all of us saying that. What I don't think we realize is that a practice, like a daily habit of gratitude, looking at all that we have, whether it's verbally communicating to you what I'm grateful for you for, whether it's me praying and being grateful to God for blessing, whether it's whatever it might be, going through that practice of gratitude, literally, neurologically, it pays the electric company. If I went over to the switch and this place didn't pay the electric company, it don't matter what I do to the switch. I can say, come on, be positive, choose positive. It's all nonsense. If there's nothing feeding the switch, our desire to be positive or negative, it don't even matter. So to me, there's a habit, again, coming back to habits, right?
Yeah.
How intentional are we about doing the things that are both proven scientifically? I think of Paul in Scripture, Philippians 4. He says, dear brothers and sisters, focus on what is good, on what is noble. And then at the end of that passage, it's the famous one that's on boxer trunks everywhere. Like I always remember Evander Real Dale Holyfield had Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. What people forget is the passage right before that. They forget two things. The passage before that is about getting through all the hard stuff and having an attitude of praise and gratitude in the midst of all the hard stuff. We also forget that he wrote that letter sitting at the bottom of a Roman prison cell in the middle of all of his own stuff and everything else. And none of those circumstances mattered. Because every day he said, I choose to rejoice, I choose to praise, i.e. be grateful. And as a result, he had this outlook that really drove a mission, right? After Jesus, Paul's the one that's kind of pushing Christianity. And we're getting historical, I don't mean to. But to me, it all comes back to the importance of gratitude and asking ourselves like, hey, in our life, gratitude is not just kumbaya. It's not just la, 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 all is right with the world and being blind to real trouble that's all around us. No, it's about being intentional about paying the electric company so we can see things with the opportunity and the belief and the possibility and the positivity, whatever you want to say. There's a work to be done to that. And I think it's important that we know that because I didn't always know that. And it would have this effect on my attitude, and then attitudes, as we know, they affect our performance, they affect our relationships, and all of that. But when you emphasize belief, I don't know, it just kind of triggered all that. And then obviously things you were sharing beyond that did as well. So.